الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So we continue on with the 99 names of Allah, and today we'll be talking about two of the 99 names of Allah, which are Rahman and Rahim. So typically these two names of Allah Ta'ala are connected anyways, and so therefore I decided to do them together. And we'll focus mainly on what the differences are between these two sifat. And so we understand that both come from the word Rahamim, or the letters Rahamim, the sifat al-Rahmah. And so therefore, ar-Rahman, Tafsir ibn Kathir mentions a few of the distinctions. Abu Ali al-Farsi, he mentions, rahmatullah alayhi, he mentions that ar-Rahman is a general name which is applying to all the different rahmah that Allah Ta'ala has, or Allah Ta'ala gives out to his makhluk. And Rahim is that which is specific to the believers. And so this is one of the main differences that we find in many scholars. They mention this difference, that Rahim is specific to the believers and Rahman is Am for the believers and the disbelievers. And we find that Allah Ta'ala's mercy encompasses the disbelievers and the believers, right? And we find this in many ahadith. One hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, لو كانت الدنيا تعدل عند الله جناح بعوضة ما سقى كافر منها شربة ماء. That if this entire world was equivalent to even the wing of a mosquito, Allah Ta'ala would not give the disbelievers even a sip of water. Meaning what? Where is that coming from? It's coming from the mercy of Allah Ta'ala, that Allah is giving water, air, and so on and so forth to even those who disbelieve in Him. Even those who reject Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala is still merciful to those beings as well. Allah Ta'ala shows His mercy in many different ways, right? And we find in the ahadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions that there's one lengthy hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were on a battlefield, and there were different people. There was a captive of the battle, and there was this woman who had lost her child. And this woman, she was running frantically. She was running around trying to search and find her child. And eventually she found her child and she hugged that baby, and it was a baby, and so therefore then she started suckling that baby as well. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba, they were observing all of this, and they once they saw that the woman, she had found the child, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to the Sahaba, he said, do you think that this woman, she would intentionally harm or throw her child into the fire of Jahannam? And the Sahaba, they say, Ya Rasulullah, this would not happen. And so then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, by Allah, Allahu arhamu bi'ibadihi min hadihi biwalidiha. That by Allah, Allah Ta'ala is definitely more merciful. And he used the word arham, right? Meaning Allah is more merciful to His servants than this woman is to her child. And so we find in this one hadith that which highlights the mercy of course, humanity, but also which highlights the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala is extremely merciful. In other hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that Allah Ta'ala has divided mercy into 100 pieces. You can assume 100 percentages, you can say, right? 100% of Allah Ta'ala's mercy. 1% Allah Ta'ala has used and distributed amongst all of His creation. And through that 1% of mercy, all of creation, they show mercy to one another. I mean, a mother shows mercy to her child, and so on and so forth, because of that 1% of mercy. And the remaining 99% of mercy, Allah Ta'ala is reserving to use on His or for His servants on the Day of Judgment. And so we understand how merciful Allah Ta'ala is. Allah Ta'ala also, going back to this sifatul rahmah, Allah says in the Quran, وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا. Allah Ta'ala is, again, the word Rahim, right? Allah is extremely merciful, right, towards the believers. وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا. So again, this highlights that the sifatul rahmah, or the word ar-Rahim, or the name of Allah Ta'ala, ar-Rahim, is specific to the believers. We find in other instances, right, that we find that ar-Rahman ashaddu mubalaghatan fi ar-Rahmah, that this attribute of ar-Rahman, he is more, or this is more of an emphasized version of mercy to fi ad-darain li jami' khalqi. The scholars say that this is applying to this world and in the akhirah. The sifatul Rahman, this applies to this world and in the akhirah, and this is to all of His creation. Wal Rahim khassa bil mu'minin, and the sifa or the attribute of ar-Rahim, this is specific to the believers. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he mentions that huma isman raqiqan, right? These are two names are very similar in meaning. أحدهما أرق من الآخر أي أكثر رحمة, meaning one is just a bit more merciful, or a bit more in terms of its specification, or in terms of rahmah, more merciful than the other, which is meaning ar-Rahman is more merciful, meaning his rahmah encompasses the believers and the disbelievers, so therefore it's technically showing more rahmah. Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahmatullah alayhi, he mentions that ar-Rahman إذا سئل أعطى والرحيم إذا لم يسأل يغضب. He makes this distinction. He says that ar-Rahman, he is that being that when he is asked, he gives. Right? And Rahim is that being when he is not asked, he gets upset. So again, a bit of a distinction. Same thing. Again, this is all Allah Ta'ala. Right? This is all Allah Ta'ala. But nonetheless, ar-Rahim is that being who, when he is not asked, he gets angry. But Rahman is again encompassing all the mercy, that when he is asked, he gives. Right? So whenever Allah Ta'ala is asked, Allah Ta'ala gives. There's a famous hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that man lam yas'alillah yaghdab alayhi, that whoever does not ask Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala gets angry with that person. Right? So in reality, when we ask humans for something, even if it's a close family relation, there's just so much that you can ask them, right? You ask them for $100 today, you ask them for another $100 tomorrow, and so on and so forth. Eventually, that relationship will come to an end, right? Because you're constantly abusing that relationship, right? It's a one-sided relationship. But in reality, Allah Ta'ala is that being who wants you to ask. Allah Ta'ala wants you to ask Him. Whatever concerns, whatever issues we have, we must turn to Allah Ta'ala. And we must realize that there's no being that we can turn to besides Allah Ta'ala. Right? Ar-Rahman is the only being that we can turn to. There's no other being that we can turn to besides Allah Ta'ala, besides Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We find in another hadith, this is a beautiful hadith by the way, and this applies, as you know, I try to bring different narrations related to these names of Allah Ta'ala. So we discussed the name of Allah Ta'ala last week. Today I'll talk about one specific dua which encompasses both of these names. Once Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, he says, he himself is narrating this hadith. He says that there was a time that I owed some people something. I owed someone something. And I felt bad meeting this person without giving him what was due to him. And so he says that for 1 or 2 days, I did not come out of my house. Out of shyness, I didn't want to meet this person and not give him whatever was due to him. And so when I did come, I met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And by the way, this is the same Mu'adh that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sent him to Yemen, and at the same time he walked with him outside of Medina, and he kept advising him, and he said, by Allah, I love you, O Mu'adh. Right? And this is Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam professing his love for Mu'adh radiallahu anhu. Of course, we all love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved Mu'adh radiallahu anhu. And so Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he finally saw Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, he said, Ya Mu'adh, ma khallafak? He said, Oh Mu'adh, haven't seen you for some time. What happened? What's left you behind, or what's kept you back? So he says that, Ya Rasulullah, I owed someone something, and so therefore I felt shy, and I disliked that that this person, he should meet me, and I don't have what's due to him. So then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, shall I not tell you something that, I'll read the hadith. ألا آمرك بكلمات تقولهن إن كان عليك أمثال الجبال قضاه الله. He says that, shall I not teach you some statements or some words that if you had debts the size of mountains, Allah Ta'ala would fulfill those debts on your behalf. And so Mu'adh says, Bala ya Rasulullah, of course ya Rasulullah, please tell me. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, recite these ayat, and these are the 2 ayat of Surah Ali Imran. اللهم مالك الملك تؤتي الملك من تشاء وتنزع الملك ممن تشاء وتعز من تشاء وتذل من تشاء بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير, until the next ayah. Both of these ayat Allah Ta'ala revealed, or Allah Ta'ala revealed, and the Prophet ﷺ recited these verses to Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, and he said, continuing on, after reciting these 2 ayat, he said, Rahman ad-dunya wal akhirah wa rahimahuma tu'ta minhuma man tasha wa tamna'u minhuma man tasha. Allahumma aghnini min anil faqr waqdi anni ad-dayn wa tawaffani fi ibadik. وَجِهَادِكَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَجِهَادٍ فِي سَبِيلِ. Right? So he says that first the 2 ayat where Allah Ta'ala, he says that O Allah, or these are the statements of Allah Ta'ala, Malik al-Mulk, you are the creator of everything, right? And then he says تُؤْتِ الْمُلْكَ مَنْ تَشَاء, you give kingdom and dominion to whoever you want, and and you also وَتَنْزِعُ الْمُلْكَ مِمَّنْ تَشَاءُ, you also take away the kingdom from whoever you want as well. And وَتُعِزُّ مَنْ تَشَاءُ وَتُذِلُّ مَنْ تَشَاءُ, you give honor to whoever you want and you disgrace whoever you want. بِيَدِكَ الْخَيْرِ, in your possession is all goodness. إِنَّكَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ, you are the being who has all type of authority and power over everything. تُولِجُ اللَّيْلَ فِي النَّهَارِ وَتُولِجُ النَّهَارَ فِي اللَّيْلِ, and you enter the night into the day and the day into the night. وَتُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَتُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتِ مِنَ الْحَيِّ, you take out the living from the dead and you take out the dead from the living, meaning you give death to whoever you want and you give life to whoever you want. وَتَرْزُقُ مَنْ تَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ, and you give rizq to whoever you want without any hisab, without any accountability. You recite these two ayat, and this is ayat number 26 and 27 of Surah Al Imran. Thereafter, you recite this part of the dua, that the Rahman of the dunya and the akhirah, and Rahimahuma, meaning and the most merciful of both, tu'ata minhuma man tasha, you give from the dunya and the akhirah, or to whoever you like. وَتَمْنَعُ مِنْهُمَا مَنْ تَشَاءُ, and you prevent from the dunya and the akhirah whoever you like. Allahumma aghnini anil faqr, oh Allah, save me, or grant me sustenance and save me from poverty. وَقْضِ عَنِّي الدَّيْنِ, and also remove or fulfill this debt on my behalf. وَتَوَفَّنِي فِي عِبَادِكَ, and also grant me death amongst your servants. وَجِهَادٍ فِي سَبِيلِكَ, and grant me death in jihad in your path. Right? And so whoever recites this dua, Allah Ta'ala will fulfill all of their debts. And this is the dua that I recommend for all of us who are experiencing any type of debt, whether it's debt for the house, for example, or cars, or student loans, or any type of debt. We should try to recite this dua, memorize this dua, and then recite this dua, so that we become independent from all types of debt. And I mentioned, I gave a full khutbah regarding debts and how to stay away from all types of debts. But moving on, Allah Ta'ala also says in the Quran, قُلِ ادْعُوا اللَّهَ أَوْ ادْعُوا الرَّحْمَنَ أَيَّمَّا تَدْعُوا فَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى, that nonetheless, whichever name of Allah Ta'ala, He says, قُلِ ادْعُوا اللَّهَ, either you call Allah Ta'ala or you call ar-Rahman, أَيَّمَّا تَدْعُوا فَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى, whichever name of Allah Ta'ala you call, they're all the beautiful names of Allah Ta'ala. Now, as an entire summary of this entire halaqah, the idea is that whichever name of Allah Ta'ala you call, Allah Ta'ala will definitely respond. And there are some names that are specific to Allah Ta'ala that should not be used for anyone else. And then there are other names that are general, that you can apply to others. I've mentioned this before as well. But especially adding alif lam, making it khas and specific, that is definitely a no-go. So for example, if someone says ar-Rahman, you cannot adopt the name ar-Rahman. You can say Abdul Rahman, but you cannot say ar-Rahman, as you cannot take ar-Rahman as a name, because that's specific to Allah Ta'ala. You cannot take al-Khaliq as a name, for example, because that's specific to Allah Ta'ala, al-Khaliq. And so same thing with al-Razzaq, that's a sifatul rizq, which is from Allah Ta'ala. So Allah Ta'ala gives that rizq, right? And so on and so forth. These are the names of Allah Ta'ala that are specific to Him, right? And so we understand that there are many names of Allah Ta'ala. Ar-Rahman and Rahim, they're similar, but ar-Rahman is more specific or more general for all Muslim and non-Muslim, for everyone. And ar-Rahim is specific to the believers. And Allah Ta'ala's sifat ar-Rahman will be for the believers. With that being said, any questions on what we mentioned?
When we use the word, we add the word with the Rahim, the plural Rahim. That meaning is about different meaning?
No. Al-Ghafur is a different meaning, and ar-Rahim is a different meaning. So Al-Ghafur means the one who is forgiving, and ar-Rahim is the one who is most merciful. So yes, these are two different meanings.
I have a question. So you said, what were the two verses you were talking about in Surah Al-Imran?
Yeah, Surah Al Imran, ayah number 26 and 27. Recite those two verses and then recite this dua. If anyone wants to memorize the dua, you can text me. All of you have my number. Just text me, I will send you a voice recording of that dua. And then try to recite that dua, inshallah. Okay? Anything else? Okay. Alright, we'll stop here, inshallah. And we'll continue next week. Jazakumullah khairah. Subhanallah bihamdi. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum.